Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome to the Academy of Secular Thought, the only place in Zambia where science and philosophy resides. And I'm kind of happy to be in a privileged position to be one of the first people to actually start having this conversation in our country, considering that nobody is open enough to actually start to entertain this topic. So we are paving the way to greatness. And this is the Academy of Secular Thought, a little podcast on which we're going to be tackling some of the most pressing philosophical problems and conversations. And I decided to run one of these short sessions for my YouTube channel. And as per usual, I would just like to say, first of all, that all of you should see to it that you subscribe and help the number grow, because it is in numbers that we grow and say things that matter. So I decided today to read a little something, just an introductory part of my book, my upcoming book. It's still in its draft phase. In case most of you people thought that I had actually given up on the prospect of writing a book, I haven't. It's just that I've been trying to strike a balance with academic issues as well as spoken word poetry issues. You know, it's like my life revolves around that. So today I decided to read you a little something, just the introductory part of the book, just for you to get to know what direction the book is headed and where the writing is at. So yeah. So the introduction, which is self-explanatory, goes something like this. I am a slave of information, shedding off every piece of my worth in an addiction mounted to knowledge acquisition. Every profound understanding of diverse concepts in diverse fields of study, as well as just the mere absorption of the human experience, breeds an unbearable itch and a thirst for what lies ahead. Simply because grasping one concept in the firm grip of your delicate mind builds room for questions you never pondered on prior to your understanding of such a particular concept. It is almost like an illusory that is predominantly the proclivity of knowledge itself. When you so happen to stumble across a eureka moment, say in any particular concept, theory, or philosophical argument, don't be so rigid to assume that that's it. Because here is something strange about things of that sort. The mere fact that there will somewhat, if not always, be a dissenting viewpoint or just honestly held questions that can override your understanding with a little bit of skepticism stands to prove that heading out for absolute answers isn't such a prudent thing to do. The reason behind my claim is quite simple, but unfortunately not necessarily easy to explain. However, let me try to break it down. People, if not all the time, find the prospect of not knowing something with absolute certainty so unsettling, especially if that something is of serious concern, like the existence of a transcendent, intelligent, supernatural being, or what the heck happens to us when we die. It is definitely beyond argument that it can be fully understood as to why that's the case. However, the temptation in such a case is many people fight tooth and nail to propose as well as uphold absolute answers to such questions, mainly because absolute answers have a touch of objectivity that echoes credibility. And as a result, such answers are far easier to trust, almost impossible to refute, and somewhat more providential for one to mount his or her own convictions on. Well, regardless, here's how thirsting for absolute answers can be quite deluded, as well as not so prudent. First of all, such an attitude breeds a kind of complacency, drunk wild on a passivity that tears down the whole learning process. I mean, here's a puzzling question on the table. You crack it end to end, and then what? That's it? The fun's over? Well, to drive my point where it sounds, we have learnt from a point of singularity, the universe sprung up and expanded into all we know and more. What we see and know and understand of the sophisticated and infinite, majestic, grandiose cosmos is not grounded on rigid, unchanging sets of facts that operate somewhat like closed-ended questions. There will always be room for more clarified understanding that inevitably will come with new questions, new prospects, and loopholes that will always cry for filling. That's what makes this whole learning thing a whole lot more interesting, don't you think? The point is, every honest person well knows he or she knows just about enough to know they don't know much. And the reason for that boils down to the fact that knowledge acquisition knows no end. It has a way about itself that creates a deep, unsettling uncertainty that fuels very honest minds to surge on and on and on ad infinitum. I love to call it the the beautiful infinite accumulative progression. Plus, nothing in this world can be fully known with complete certainty because there are always tiny annoying bits and pieces of doubt that we all have to make up for with some measurable degree of faith. And it is such points of doubt that fill our heads, at least in our lone, sober, quiet moments when we ponder over what ifs. And aren't they unsettling? Aren't they annoying? And don't they push you into spaces of cognition or reasoning that make you slightly uncomfortable? So yeah, the introduction goes on, but I wanted to read you that first part so that you can know what the book is going to be primarily about. It's a philosophical book that is poetry-based and a scientific book that is equally poetry-based. So it's like spreading the science and the philosophy through the poetry. So the channel I've decided to employ is poetry because, there's a lot of people already addressing these heavy topics, and I wanted to address them in quite a unique way and a way that I know I would do better. So yeah, this was Seraph, the philosophy guy. Don't forget to subscribe and leave me a comment.